If you don't know Wakefield Poole, well, that's a shame. Because Wakefield Poole was an adult film pioneer who revolutionized gay porn in the late 1970s. The early days of gay porn were plagued with bad film quality and low budgets. Wakefield Poole was one of those people who changed that. And by the time he did, he had already led a colorful life working on Broadway as a dancer, choreographer, director, and rubbing shoulders with legendary performers. On tonight's episode, we're going to recognize Wakefield Poole, the director of the infamous gay porn film Boys in the Sand, a film that would go down in history as the first gay porn film reviewed by the New York Times and Variety magazine. With Boys in the Sand, Wakefield Poole was about to sexually awaken a generation of gay men all over the world and make Fire Island an international tourist attraction. This is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped you get off. Before we continue, I want to remind you to help this channel by clicking that subscribe button and selecting the bell icon for notifications to see more content like this. Walter Wakefield Poole was born on February 24, 1939 in Salisbury, North Carolina to Walter and Hazel Poole. His family would later move to Jacksonville, Florida, where he would spend most of his formative life. It's here, in Jacksonville, where according to his autobiography, Dirty Poole, he would develop into a singer, dancer, and have many of his sexual awakenings at a very early start. Wakefield Poole grew up watching a lot of classic movies and loved to sing. He was always self-reliant at an early age. His fearlessness led him to visit a radio station where a popular show called The Crusader Kids was produced. Poole would find his way to the city and to the studio. Once there, he told the woman he came across he had come to sing on the radio. The woman he spoke to just happened to be the piano player for the show and quickly auditioned him. He would be on the show that same day and win third prize for the contest. He grew a local notoriety. His mother, wanting him to have a normal childhood, would shelter him from doing too much work. Between being a kid, singing gigs, and training at the local dance academy, Poole would find himself in situations many kids probably wouldn't experience. I won't get to it here, but if you really want to know, read his book. What I will say is, being a precocious young man is probably the reason we have Wakefield Poole's contributions to entertain us. Once Poole's voice began to change, he stopped singing. His mother was contacted by a local children's theater owner who offered him a scholarship for dancing and drama. At the age of 11, he was teaching at the school and stayed there until he was 17. He continued to dance and study ballet seriously under another teacher and school. Poole also began choreographing productions. The better he got, the more national exposure he began to attract. When he turned 18, he knew he had to leave Jacksonville, Florida. When the Ballet Russe in Monte Carlo in New York City offered him a scholarship, he was on his way.
And I remember it was raining, and Mrs. Lake, the woman who started me, buying my shoes and everything, and my mother and father took me to the airport. And I said goodbye, got on the plane, boom. I knew my life would never be the same.
When Poole arrived at the Ballet Russe, he began taking classes and found a job working at the Hotel St. George. He would work by night and study during the day. He continued this routine for about a year and a half and studied as much as he could, taking classes with Igor Shkwezov at the Ballet Theater School. After he was accepted into the Ballet Russe, he began touring the country with the company. It was non-stop touring which led to burnout. He took a break from the Ballet Russe and was offered a chance to tour the world with another dance company, the Rod Alexander Dance Jubilee. Poole described it as one of the best ways to see the world. In 1960, Poole first appeared on Broadway as a dancer in Finian's Rainbow. And later, in 1965, he was an associate choreographer for Richard Rodgers and Stephen Sondheim's Do I Hear a Waltz? It was around this time that Poole would meet two influential characters in his life. Marvin Schulman, who became his business manager and producing partner under the name Poole Mar Productions, and his first wife, Nancy. Poole had never said no to a good role in The Hay. In his autobiography, he admits if he was with a woman and she can get him hard, he would sleep with her. Poole met Nancy Van Rijn through working with her on various productions. Poole and Nancy were together 4 years and had a wonderful time. During this relationship, Poole had a residual payment issue on the production of Do I Hear a Waltz, to which he was owed money for numbers that had appeared in the show that were not paid to him. When he lost the case, he found it hard to get work on Broadway. Nancy was working and they began to spend a lot of time separated, which led to their marriage's demise. They separated after 4 years and divorced 4 years after. After Poole and his wife divorced, he began to work on lucrative industrial shows, which kept him very busy. So busy, in fact, he found sexual release at a popular New York sauna, the Continental Baths. There, he met Peter Schneckenberger, who you may know as Peter Fisk, who became Poole's boyfriend for 8 years. Peter would go on to be very influential in Wakefield's life, introducing him to the art scene and Andy Warhol, and also during the making of Boys in the Sand. Beginning in the late 1960s, Poole began experimenting with both Super 8 and 16mm film. It was in this context that he first considered making a gay adult film. The story around the making of Boys in the Sand has become a bit of an urban legend. Poole had gone to see Tom DeSimone's 1971 film, Highway Hustler, and found it boring. Someone ought to be able to make a porno film that is attractive and no one gets degraded in. And from that moment, Poole bought a Bolex camera and began to shoot the first segment of Boys in the Sand. The shoot for Boys in the Sand became a labor of love among friends. Alongside Casey Donovan, the breakthrough star of the film, Peter Fisk, Poole's lover, would appear. Marvin, Poole's financial advisor and business partner, came up with the name as a pun on the gay stage play and film The Boys in the Band. When the film was completed, it screened at the 55th Street Playhouse. Regardless of print advertising, it was word of mouth that would make the film a box office sensation. By the afternoon of opening day, there were lines down the block to see the film. Within a year of Boys, Poole released his second film, Bijou. Bijou was a dark, enigmatic, hardcore experimental narrative featuring actor Bill Harrison, who shocked audiences when he unveiled the largest penis most people had ever seen in a movie or in real life. Bijou was also a critically acclaimed film and had a significant box office life. His next film would prove to be an artistic success but a financial disaster. To follow up Bijou, Poole wanted to make a straight, softcore film based on 3 tales from the Bible, aptly titled Wakefield Poole's Bible. In 1974, disappointed with Bible's performance, Poole and Fisk moved out to San Francisco. Shortly after moving, Poole discovered Fisk was having a love affair with someone else. They split up the art pieces they had purchased together and later sold it at a high-end art gallery on the Castro called Hot Flash. At this time, Poole made Moving, his third film for the sole purpose of making money. Peter Fisk agreed to appear in the last film for Poole, and then they parted ways. Also, during this time, Poole's financial advisor and business partner Marvin was successfully managing Michael Bennett, who had a Broadway hit on his hands at the time with A Chorus Line. Not wanting to be blacklisted, Marvin parted ways with Poole to focus on more mainstream projects. Poole descended into addiction, smoking cocaine, or freebasing. He dabbled with a couple of other film projects and would go on to work with Paul Hattlestead, the owner of Hot Flash, the high-end art gallery mentioned earlier. They would try to bring the art gallery to another level by making it a visually attractive gift shop. Paul would also partner with Poole and step in to fill the void Marvin left open. After leaving Hot Flash, Poole experimented with a new porn film, Take One. During this time, a business Poole had begun with Marvin Shulman, which Paul Hattlestead eventually became part owner of, was in dire strait due to money distributors were owed. Paul and Poole were now addicted to drugs and the problem was getting worse. He then returned to New York in 1981 as associate to the director for the musical Bring Back Birdie featuring Cheetah Rivera. While working on the play, someone posted an article which outed Poole as a pornographer. He was then kicked off the project. Poole began making movies for Mail Express as a salary pornographer and made Boys in the Sand 2, which reunited him with his good friend Cal Culver, Casey Donovan.
A mystery disease known as the gay plague has become an epidemic unprecedented in the history of American medicine.
Poole lived through one of the worst experiences in the life of a gay man at the time, the AIDS pandemic that gripped the world. Like many gay men who survived, Poole lost so many of the friends he made during his Broadway years and his adult entertainment career to the disease. He attributes not getting AIDS to being in the grip of a drug addiction. Not left with many options after leaving Broadway and pornography behind, Poole studied at the French Culinary Institute and became a chef. Upon graduating, he got a job working with Anne-Marie Hoost, who was Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis' chef. When the stock market crashed, he lost that position and began to work for fashion designer Calvin Klein. Wakefield Poole retired in his 60s and went home to Jacksonville, Florida, to spend time with the family he had left. Wakefield Poole passed away in a nursing home in 2021. Wakefield Poole was on the roster of directors to interview during the early stages of the 3rd season of Demystifying Gay Porn. But by the time I emailed him, it was already too late. Poole should be more recognized culturally for the contributions he made early on in the gay porn industry. Most of his films have faded from collective gay memory, known only to vintage porn collectors and film fans. I am glad that in one way or another, he is still alive and recognized here. Fun fact: you'll probably remember Elizabeth Dole, who served as Senator of North Carolina from 2003 to 2009. Senator Dole was also the wife of former U.S. Senate Majority Leader, 1976 Republican Vice Presidential nominee, and 1996 Republican Presidential nominee Bob Dole. But back in grade school in Salisbury, North Carolina, she was Wakefield Poole's classmate. They also happened to be neighbors. One day in class, Poole recalls bringing a piece of paper on which he wrote, "Wanna f***," and passed it down to Liddy. It almost reached her when the teacher caught sight of the note and snatched it. After the teacher regained the color in her face, she marched Poole to the principal's office. Liddy never saw the note. You've been watching Demystifying Gay Porn. I am your host, Ike Grande. Demystifying Gay Porn can be found on every podcast directory as well as YouTube. Demystifying Gay Porn is on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram. If you like what you're watching and want to be a part of the process, head over to patreon.com/demystifyinggayporn, where you can help this YouTube channel and I can continue making content like this. Once again, this is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped to get off. Cheers.